It is Tuesday, May 12th. I'm Amalia Johnson.
And I'm Chris Flavell.
And this is Your World in 5, where we give you a day's worth of international news in just 5 minutes.
We start today in Israel, where Pope Benedict XVI is continuing his Middle Eastern tour. This pope, of course, has run into controversy in the Muslim world in the past. In 2006, he quoted a centuries-old passage that said, in part, "Show me just what Muhammad brought that was new, and there you will find things only evil and inhuman." Didn't go over very well. There's also, of course, the lingering unhappiness over the Catholic Church's long silence when it comes to the Holocaust. So we ask, how has Pope Benedict done on his tour? So far, so good. He's visited the Dome of the Rock, which is the third holiest site in Islam, from which Muhammad is said to have ascended into heaven, and the Wailing Wall, or the Western Wall, the last remains of the Second Jewish Temple. Later this week, the Pope is expected to visit a Palestinian refugee camp in Bethlehem and to hold Mass in Nazareth.
We move now to Guatemala, where the government is currently protesting claims made by an assassinated lawyer that they arranged to have him killed. Sounds impossible, doesn't it? Well, Rodrigo Rosenberg, a local lawyer, was gunned down on Sunday whilst bicycling through Guatemala City. Then on Monday, a video surfaced in which Rosenberg states that if he is dead, it is because Guatemala's President Alvaro Colom has ordered his assassination. Initially, when the video surfaced on YouTube, there was some disagreement over the tape's authenticity. Now, however, several people who know Rosenberg, including Guatemala's former Interior Minister, agree he is in fact the man on the tape. In the video, Rosenberg asserts that he may be targeted because of representing Khalil Musa, a Guatemalan businessman who was murdered in March along with his daughter. Further, according to Rosenberg, Musa's murder was a result of his refusal to engage in acts of corruption together with the Guatemalan president. Now, the government has issued a 7-point statement on its website saying that the allegations are aimed at destabilizing the government and blaming the Rosenberg murder on organized crime.
Iranian authorities freed an American-Iranian journalist Monday after a court reduced her sentence for spying. The journalist, 32-year-old Roxana Saberi, had been held for more than 3 months. She was first arrested for buying a bottle of wine, which of course is illegal in Iran. American officials ascribe Saberi's case to a power struggle within the Iranian government, where hardliners sought to oppose a thawing of relations with the U.S. By securing Saberi's release, quote, "Those who are trying to engage the U.S. won," wrote the New York Times. The Iranian judicial system has never been lenient when it comes to foreign journalists. In 2003, Canadian-Iranian journalist Zahra Kazemi died in Iranian custody after being arrested for taking pictures during a student protest in Tehran. The Iranian government first reported that Kazemi had died in hospital after suffering a stroke. The government then conceded that perhaps she had died after being beaten in custody, a death that the Iranian courts initially ruled to be an accident.
We take a look now at Afghanistan, where an aggressive leadership shakeup seems to be part of a larger shift in strategy in a war which is rapidly becoming America's top military priority. On Monday, Defense Secretary Robert Gates announced that the current top commander in Afghanistan, General David D. McKiernan, is being replaced by Lieutenant General Stanley McChrystal. The news came as the U.S. prepares to send more troops into Afghanistan, bringing troop levels in that country close to 60,000. The change in strategy is seen in part as the result of increasing pressure to reduce the level of civilian casualties in the conflict. Pentagon officials stated that this was the first high-profile replacement of a commander in a combat situation since the dismissal of Douglas MacArthur during the Korean War in the 1950s.
Violence continues this week in Sri Lanka, where a mortar shell struck the only functioning hospital in the war zone in the north of that country. The Associated Press reports that at least 49 people were killed and another 50 injured. The shelling came after hundreds of civilians were killed over the weekend. The latest attack comes just after the Sri Lankan government pledged not to use airstrikes or artillery in its fight against the rebel Tamil Tigers. The U.S. called the civilian death toll unacceptably high, placing the blame on both the rebels for using civilians as human shields and the government for continuing to use heavy weapons. The fighting in Sri Lanka is reverberating outside that country. In Toronto, Canada, thousands of Tamil Canadians swarmed a major downtown highway on Sunday, shutting down traffic and prompting a warning from the mayor to find a safer way to protest the actions of the Sri Lankan government.
And finally today, following on last week's story about the ban on seal products in Europe, we look today at a similarly contentious story in Australia, where animal welfare groups are taking legal action to stop the culling of up to 6,000 kangaroos living within the grounds of a disused military base near Australia's capital, Canberra. Earlier this week, several protesters broke into the grounds of the base in an attempt to stop the roo killings, arguing that they were a, quote, brutal and unsubstantiated slaughter. Local officials say the area was suffering from an overpopulation of kangaroos and that they were damaging the local environment. Now, a key representative of the Australian Society for Kangaroos said the local authorities, who are expected to have killed up to 2,000 kangaroos already, were doing so inhumanely, separating joeys, which are baby kangaroos, from their mothers and destroying family groups. Activists have threatened more direct action should their legal challenge fail, and certainly we at our end hope that someone down under has notified social services. And that's it for us.
I'm Chris.
I'm Amalia.
Thanks for joining us, and be sure to check us out on iTunes.
And we'll see you next time.